Imagine earning nearly $170,000 a year and still feeling like you're running out of money every single month. It sounds impossible, but for millions of American families, this is everyday reality. They went to college, built successful careers, worked full-time, got married, and believed that two incomes would finally give them financial freedom. Instead, many found themselves trapped in a cycle of rising bills, growing expenses, and constant financial stress. So, what changed? Why are families making more money than previous generations while feeling less financially secure? The answer isn't as simple as spending too much. It's hidden inside a powerful economic idea that has quietly reshaped the American middle class. Meet Daniel and Rachel Parker from Dallas, Texas. Daniel works as an IT support specialist, earning about $73,000 a year. Rachel is a registered nurse, earning around $94,000 annually. Together, they earn nearly $167,000 before taxes. On paper, they look like a successful American family. Stable careers, a reliable car, retirement accounts, a healthy 6-year-old daughter named Emma. Friends admire them. Their parents believe they've achieved the American dream. But behind every smiling family photo lies a question that millions of Americans ask at the end of every month. If we're earning this much money, why does it still feel like we're falling behind? To answer that question, we first need to understand something called the two-income trap. To understand why Daniel and Rachel feel financially trapped, we need to travel back more than 2 decades. In 2003, a groundbreaking book called The Two-Income Trap introduced an idea that challenged one of America's biggest financial assumptions. The authors argued that the problem wasn't that families had suddenly become irresponsible with money. Instead, they found that the cost of essential living had increased so dramatically that a second income was no longer a luxury. It had become a necessity. Housing prices climbed. Childcare became one of the largest monthly expenses. Healthcare costs continued to rise. College tuition became more expensive. Families weren't spending more because they wanted a luxury lifestyle. They were spending more simply to maintain what previous generations considered a normal middle-class life. That completely changed the financial risk facing American households. When a family depends on 2 incomes just to cover basic expenses, losing even one paycheck can quickly create a financial crisis. That's the hidden danger behind the two-income trap, and it's exactly the situation Daniel and Rachel are beginning to face. By the early 2000s, something fundamental had changed in the American economy. Families weren't necessarily making bad financial decisions. The rules of the game had changed. In 2003, Elizabeth Warren, then a Harvard law professor, and Amelia Warren Tyagi published a book called The Two-Income Trap. After studying thousands of middle-class American families, they reached a surprising conclusion. The greatest financial danger wasn't luxury spending. It wasn't expensive vacations or designer clothes. It was the rising cost of necessities. Housing prices had increased dramatically in neighborhoods with better schools. Childcare had become essential because both parents needed to work. Healthcare costs continued to rise, while college tuition climbed year after year. Families weren't choosing a more expensive lifestyle. They were competing for the basics. And as more households relied on 2 incomes, they also became more financially fragile. One job loss, one medical emergency, or one unexpected expense could quickly push an otherwise successful family into debt. Daniel and Rachel didn't know it yet, but they weren't fighting against their own budget. They were living inside a financial system that had quietly become far more expensive than it had been a generation earlier. Understanding that difference is the first step toward making better financial decisions. Daniel and Rachel's story isn't unusual. Across the United States, many families with solid careers are asking the same question. Why does financial security feel farther away than ever? One major reason is that the cost of essential living has grown much faster than many household budgets can comfortably absorb. In many cities, Housing alone can consume a large portion of a family's monthly income. Childcare has become one of the biggest expenses for working parents. Healthcare premiums, insurance, groceries, transportation, and everyday necessities have all become more expensive over time. At the same time, borrowing money has become more costly whenever interest rates rise. A higher mortgage rate can add hundreds of dollars to a monthly payment. Credit card balances become more expensive to carry. Car loans cost more. Suddenly, every financial decision matters. Daniel and Rachel begin to realize that earning more money isn't enough if every new dollar is immediately absorbed by rising costs. This is where many families make a critical mistake. They focus only on increasing income, while ignoring cash flow, debt, and long-term financial resilience. Real financial security isn't created by a bigger paycheck alone. It's created by keeping enough distance between what you earn and what you spend. That financial breathing room is what protects a family when life becomes unpredictable. For the first time in years, Daniel and Rachel stopped asking, "How can we earn more money?" Instead, they started asking a much better question. How can we make our money work better for us? That small change in mindset transformed almost every financial decision they made. They realized that financial security isn't built by chasing a higher paycheck every year. It's built by creating strong financial habits that continue working even when life becomes unpredictable. Their first priority was building an emergency fund, not because they expected disaster, but because they knew life is full of surprises. A broken transmission, an unexpected medical bill, or even a temporary job loss no longer had to become a financial emergency. Every month, they automatically transferred a portion of their income into savings before spending anything else. They treated saving like a monthly bill they had to pay themselves. Next, they focused on eliminating high-interest debt. They understood that every dollar paid in unnecessary interest was a dollar that could never be invested for their future. As their debt slowly decreased, something remarkable happened. Their monthly cash flow improved. Instead of working just to pay yesterday's bills, they finally had room to prepare for tomorrow. Once their financial foundation became stronger, they shifted their attention toward long-term investing. Rather than trying to predict the stock market or chase the next big opportunity, they invested consistently, month after month. They discovered that building wealth isn't about perfect timing. It's about time itself. Small, disciplined investments made consistently over many years often achieve far more than emotional decisions driven by fear or excitement. Daniel and Rachel didn't become millionaires overnight. Their lives didn't suddenly become perfect. But something far more valuable changed. They no longer felt trapped. They felt prepared. And in today's economy, that sense of financial confidence may be one of the greatest investments any family can ever build. Over the next few years, Daniel and Rachel discovered a truth that completely changed the way they viewed money. Wealth isn't measured by the size of your paycheck. It's measured by how much of that paycheck you keep, how wisely you invest it, and how long it continues working on your behalf. Every dollar they invested became another employee quietly working 24 hours a day without asking for a raise or taking a vacation. While they were sleeping, working, or spending time with their daughter Emma, their investments continued growing through the power of compounding. That's when they realized the real goal wasn't to work for money forever. The goal was to slowly build assets that would eventually work for them. They stopped chasing a bigger salary every year and started focusing on increasing their net worth, improving their cash flow, and buying assets instead of liabilities. Little by little, their financial stress faded. They no longer felt trapped by every monthly bill because they had built something much more valuable than a high income. They had built a financial system that could support them even when life became unpredictable. And that's the difference between simply earning a living and building lasting wealth. Daniel and Rachel's journey wasn't really about making more money. It was about buying back something even more valuable: control over their lives. Financial independence doesn't mean quitting your job tomorrow or becoming a millionaire overnight. It means reaching a point where your savings, investments, and financial habits give you choices instead of pressure. For years, they believed that every extra hour of work meant a better future. But eventually, they discovered that true freedom isn't measured by how many hours you work. It's measured by how many options you have. Every dollar they saved, every debt they eliminated, and every investment they made quietly increased their net worth and slowly purchased back their time. Instead of asking, "How much money did we make this month?" they began asking a much more powerful question. How much freedom did we create this month? That's the question that changed everything. The story of Daniel and Rachel isn't really about one American family. It's about millions of hardworking people who did everything they were told would lead to financial security. They worked hard. They earned good incomes. They bought a home. They raised a family. Yet they still found themselves living under constant financial pressure. The lesson of the two-income trap isn't that earning more money is a mistake. The lesson is that income alone can never guarantee financial freedom. True financial security comes from spending intentionally, protecting yourself from risk, investing consistently, and giving every dollar a purpose. Because at the end of the day, wealth isn't measured by what you earn. It's measured by the choices you make with what you earn. If Daniel and Rachel can change the direction of their financial future one decision at a time, so can you. Your next paycheck could disappear, or it could become the first building block of your financial freedom. The choice begins today.